So now we're ready to get started with the first actual full stack feature of our app, which is sending friend requests. So the way our application will work is that before you can start a conversation with anyone, you need to send them a friend request and they need to accept it. And to get started with that, we'll start with the backend side of things for requests. So the first thing you will need to do is to add a requests table in our database. So we'll open up the convex folder and go into schema.ts. And then we see we already have a users table. So after this comma, after that, we'll just create a new table called requests. And then we'll use the same define table function which we used before. And then our table will have two fields, which is firstly the sender, and the sender will be a v.id. So this is a special type which references an ID of another table. And in this case, we'll be referencing the ID of the users table. And then we'll have another field in this table called v.id, and that will be users as well. So we're basically creating a table where we'll store a mapping of the user ID who sent the request and the user ID who received the request. And again, to make searching along this table easier, we need to create indexes. So we'll say dot index, and the first one will be by underscore receiver. And then the field we'll pass in for that is the receiver field. So the index will be called by receiver and it's mapping to the receiver field which we have. And we'll also need to index by receiver underscore sender. And in this case, we need to pass in both the receiver and the sender to be able to get the data. So you'll see why we need this later, but we need both of these indexes to be able to search along this table. So now that we have the schema defined, we need to create the actual API endpoints, which the front end can call. So again, the naming convention is that you take the table name, and if you're doing a operation on a single request, we will call that in the request.ts file. And if we are doing an operation on multiple requests, such as getting all the requests for a certain user, we'll do that in requests.ts. So for now, we just want to be able to create a single request. So we'll go into the convex folder and create request.ts and save that. And then what we'll do is we'll say export const create, which will be the function the front end will call. And we'll create a mutation, which we will fetch from convex. The first field will be args, which is the arguments passed to it by the front end. And we will take in the email, and that will be of type v, which we import from convex dot string. And then the next field inside this dictionary is the handler. So that will be an async function, which will take in the context and the args that we have, and we'll